we're going to talk about Ricky Simone and his fight with Smotherman. Now, usually, when you got a fight in the undercard like this, and out of all fights in an undercard of a fight night in UFC Atlanta, not a pay-per-view, mind you, you usually don't get this kind of traction or this type of attention when you're dealing with a fight like that, right? Usually, these guys would have to fight up the ranks in order to sort of, get their names out there for people to talk about. But with this particular subject matter at hand, this is one of those subjects where, hey, you know what? You absolutely have to talk about it. Good morning, Marty Miller. My man, Marty Miller, is right here joining us live and early. My man, good morning to you as well, and good morning to everybody in Ohio. Good morning to everybody across the United States, because we're going to talk about a hot topic regarding UFC Atlanta that many people may have missed, right? Obviously, Smotherman was complaining that Ricky was saying that, hey, you know what, you're under arrest, while he had him in a body lock position or in some sort of grappling position. And as a result of that, he basically said to him, hey, you know what, man, you're under arrest. And then Smotherman responds by saying, well, you know what you're saying is racist. I also was going to ask your take on the Paul Craig fight result as well. Obviously, talk about this fight first. Okay, so that one right there, I got to tell you, right, this reminds me of the Anthony Smith situation, but the opposite. You see, Anthony Smith had every reason in the world to go in there and basically call out that, hey, you know what, I'm hurt, I can't continue, and then he could have just walked out as the undisputed champion. Now, what would have helped with Anthony Smith had he walked out of there as the world champion? Well, he would have gone on to fight John Jones for a rematch, because there is no way John Jones is just going to let that go and not have a rematch, right? The rematch clause would have been exercised. As a result of that, Anthony Smith would have gone into the rematch as a world champion with pay-per-view points on top of it. And unfortunately, he didn't do that. He didn't do that at all. What he did was say, hey, you know what? I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to go in there, and I'm ready to fight, and whatever consequences may be, right? That's Anthony Smith. Everything that we know about Anthony Smith. Okay, he's an honorable guy. He's a guy of honor. He absolutely believes in the ethos of going out on your shield. And then you have somebody like Rodolfo, the complete opposite. The dude is an absolute actor. Let's be real about this, right? I don't think Bellagio is going to be a champion. I don't think he's going to be a champion at all. In fact, I think that he's going to have a lot of exciting fights. He will have some exciting fights, but this is not a person that has a heart of a champion. Now, Anthony Smith, although he never was a champion, he has a heart of a champion, and as a result of having that heart of a champion, people respect him more, right? They gave him gigs when it came to ESPN, right? He's rewarded in some kind of way, right? He has a lot of people that respect him in the MMA game. He has fighters underneath him. He has people that he trains. He has people that he can probably manage somewhere down the line if he decides to get into that route. How Aljo became champion, correct? Fresh melon juice. That's a very good comparison as well, right? The only difference is that Aljo actually won the title and Bellagio didn't. Now, look, what I liked about this was that they had the right call. The right call that they made was that, hey, you know what? We're going to make this into a no contest. Because think about this, right? Rodolfo was going to walk out of here as the winner. He was literally going to walk out of here as the winner. Okay, and then they just decided, you know what, we're going to make this into a no contest because it is the overall becoming a champ. but now he has sustained a success by being an analysis. Yeah, yeah, because let me tell you, right? They don't give that spot out to just anybody. I know that you see guys like Michael Bisping. Obviously, he's a former world champion. You got who else was in the analyst desk over the years? Paul Felder, not a champion, but he got in there, but a very well respected guy. Who else was never champion that got in there? Well, okay, obviously Daniel Cormier has been champion, so he sort of deserves that. But this is not the type of situation you're going to have with Rodolfo. Look, I'm going to look at Rodolfo's record right here. The Fresh Melon Juice says the woman. What do you mean? The woman. Let me know what you mean by that. Oh, the anal. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Laura Sanko. Yeah. So she had one MMA fight her whole entire career, but I think the reason why she's in there is, yeah, Laura Sanko. Yeah, the reason why she's in there is because she actually knows what she's talking about. Now, look, this is coming from somebody that has, a certain view of certain things and this and that. But you call a spade, and yeah, absolutely, well deserving of that job. 100%, right? The knowledge, everything that she does with the breakdown, all of that, right? It's all brilliant stuff. So absolutely well deserving, right? So with Rodolfo, I think that okay, he has right now a 12-2 record. Okay, 12-2 record. The only loss that he's had ground strikes, and then the other one was a ground strike TKO. So, this is a guy that's been TKO'd before, and not in a knockout kind of way, right? He hasn't been knocked out cold in that kind of matter. Dan Hardy is another one. So, Dan Hardy gave George St. Pierre one of the hardest fights of his life. Obviously, after that fight, Dan Hardy, Dan Hardy had a few losses, right? He was on a losing streak, and then he ended his UFC career with a fight against Amir Sadala. But that fight with GSP was never forgotten, right? He put his soul into that fight, right? He put his absolute all into that fight, and as a result, well, he didn't get all of the rewards, but he got some of the rewards, right? And it kind of, I gotta tell you, right? Like this is something that I think really a lot of young fighters need to learn, right? Because look, I was once a young fighter. I understand the mentality of what goes into a fighter at a very young age or when they start out their career, right? When you're at that age, you believe that you are the best in the world, especially if you're coming out with a 1-0 record, a 2-0 record, right? You're undefeated no matter how small that record is. You think that you can take on the world. Okay, but then sometimes reality sets in and you realize, man, you know what? Maybe I can't be a world champion. Maybe I can't beat the top guy in my division right now. Or maybe I can't beat the top guy in whatever league I'm fighting in. That starts to set in. But what a lot of these young fighters need to do when all of that starts setting in and you realize you're not going to be world champion, understand that when you go through this process, it rewards you in some kind of way. And the likes of Dan Hardy, the likes of Anthony Smith, the likes of Laura Sanko, who has one MMA fight, I think that it all benefited them in some kind of way. Now, look, this is why, for somebody that was never really into the mainstream sport of things, right? I was always into the combat sports side of things. So I was either engaging in wrestling or taekwondo or basically some combat sports that have nothing to do with school sports, right? Well, what is it that they always say about the other ball sports? Football, basketball, baseball, and all that. They say that, it helps create employable children in the future. And I thought, okay, so that's interesting. And it kind of makes sense because not every kid who plays Pee Wee baseball is going to make it as a New York Yankee or as a New York Mets or an LA Dodgers or anything like that, right? But if they go through that system, they start learning something about competition, teamwork, and everything else in between, and they can take that venture and move on to something else and better themselves, right? They can better themselves through the channel of sports and through the the methods that you're learning through these endeavors. Fresh Melon Juice says, when you realize you just wait until Islam moves to, when you realize that you just wait until Islam moves to another division. Oh, okay. Like in reference to if you know that you're never going to be world champion in your division, and as such, yeah, okay, I know exactly what you mean. So when you look at these guys, right? Yes, they may have had some mishaps in their fight career, but the heart and the grit that they showed in their fight career translated over into whatever it is that they're doing now, whether they are analysis, whether they are coaches, or whether they are managers, or whether they are uplifting themselves in other ventures outside of fighting, right? These are all transferable skills, is what I'm saying. But you're right. There is a certain limit when you realize that there's one guy on the top and you're never going to beat him. But once again, it does have that overall good method of learning good habits, right? So that by the end of the day, that's what's important about that particular topic at hand is, you know what, you may not be the best, but trying your best will bring you the best results. So let me say that again, right? You don't have to be the best, but trying your best will bring you your best results. Marty Miller says, I'm curious to see what they'll do with Usman now. I tell you, Usman is right up there. He beat a number 7 guy. I don't know if that should be enough for him to get a title shot, but I think he's got a long way to go. Let's take a look at the 170 division in the UFC right now. UFC 170 rankings. Okay, this is very important to understand who is in the rankings right now. So Islam Makhachev without a belt. Check this out. Islam Makhachev without a belt is pound for pound number 1. Merab is number 2. By the way, this is Tuesday, so all of this is now updated. Ilya Tapora is number 4, and he doesn't have a belt. Underneath him is Dricus and Magomedov at number 6. So John Jones is at number 3, and Merab is at number 2. I didn't think that I would see Merab above John Jones, but okay. Usman versus Bilal is a good one. Now, for whatever reason, Fresh Melon Juice, he's somehow ignoring Bilal or saying, oh, I don't know this guy's name or this and that. I don't know him from a can of paint or whatever. But Marty Miller says they're saying his resume might get him a title shot without winning another fight. But I'm kind of on the same page as you. Yeah, I agree with Melon Juice. Marty Miller says that Bilal and Usman would be a good fight. However, yeah, he's, well, you know what? How about for a title eliminator? And they already have beef, so that's well built in. So maybe for a title eliminator, but let's take a look at the welterweight division, right? Obviously, Bilal Muhammad is at number 1 with Jack Della as champion. Sean Brady is number 2. Obviously, Sean Brady had lost to Bilal Muhammad, but he hasn't won over Leon Edwards. Shafkat is number 3, and Leon is number 4, obviously, after getting beat by Sean Brady. And then Kamaru Usman is at number 5. So, okay, and then Joaquin Buckley was at number 7, and he's still at number 7 this week. So, you look at Usman, okay, he's number 5. He beat Leon Edwards. He could fight Shafkat, but Shafkat, I think, has a shot, has a chance to get the shot after the Islam fight. Maybe even Sean Brady, or maybe you could do Usman versus Sean Brady. That's probably a good fight to put together. But yeah, man, there's a lot of interesting things going on in the 170 division, right? Very stacked. And then there's Michael Morales right there, right underneath him. He's at number 8. Colby Covington is at number 9. Gilbert Burns is at number 10. 11 is Jeff Neal. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson still doing the damn thing, right? One of the OGs in the game at number 12. And then there's Carlos Prats at number 13. And then there's Kevin Holland always lurking around. And then there's Michael Venom Page right underneath at number 15. So So a lot. There's a lot to get to on that. Look, Nazardine Imavov is number 1 in the middleweight division, right? Whereas Khamzat is number 3. Israel is number 4. Robert Whitaker is there. So there's a lot of former champions in that weight class. A lot of former champions in the middleweight division, and then there's a lot of former champions in the welterweight division, and in the lightweight division, you only got Charles as a former champion. Max Holloway is at number 4, right? Which is very surprising. So, man, I don't know, man. Would you say this is probably the most stacked, except for the heavyweight division and with the exception of the flyweights, right? Every UFC division right now is stacked. I mean, yeah, really stacked. 135 is pretty stacked. You got a few former champions in there. You got Peter Yan. You got Omar, who's a top contender. Corey, who's a top contender. Davison, who's a former champion in a previous weight class. Henry Cejudo, still in there, former double champ at number 10. Ayman Zahabi, okay, not really a champ. Kyler Phillips, Montel Jackson. So, a pretty stacked for the most part. And then you got the featherweight division, right? Sorry, we're doing a little, update on the rankings for the UFC's division right now. So in the featherweight division, okay, Volk is right back up there. Okay, Max Holloway. How about this? Max Holloway is at number 1 in featherweight and is number 4 in the lightweight division. And then there's Movsar Evloev. He's right up there. Yair Rodriguez at number 5. Diego Lopez at number 2. Arnold Allen at number 6. Brian Ortega at number 7. LaRon Murphy. Aljamain Sterling, former champion. Josh Emmett. John Silva. Yusuf Zalal. David Onama. And Dan Ige. And Calvin Kattar. Okay, so pretty good list, right? Now, you go into the light heavyweight division. You got Magomed Ankalaev as a champion. Alex Pereira at number 1. Obviously, they have to, set up a rematch between them. Then there's Jiri Prochazka at number 2. Third is Carlos Ulberg. Jamal Hill is fighting Khalil Rountree at number 7. Alexander Rakic is still in there, number 6. And then number 5 is Jan Blachowicz, former champion. Dominic Reyes, former title challenger. Volkan Oezdemir, also former title challenger. Johnny Walker, Bogdan Gusov, and then Zhang Ming Yang, and then Alonzo Menfield. That's the 205 division. We'll skip the women's division. Not really not really that interesting. But in the heavyweight division, okay, you got Tom Aspinall as number 1, and then you got interim champion. He's the interim champion at number 1, Cyril Gane. Yeah, I know, right? I know why Marty Miller is laughing at that one. No, we'll get to that. But of course, I'm going by the order of of the weight classes here. I mean, not the order, but like the order that the UFC website has it. So Alexander Volkov is at number 3. Okay, so here's the thing, right? When they say that the heavyweight division is not stacked right now, I don't know, man. I think when they say that, I think they're talking about the guys that are below number 10, right? Because if you look at below number 10, I mean, they look very subpar. There's 10, Derek Lewis at number 10. There's Tai Tuivasa at number 11. There's Shamil Gaziev, by the way, undefeated at number 12. Number 13 is Mick Parkin. Taliesin Teixeira is going to be taking on Derek Lewis, number 14. So we don't really know much about him. Martin Buday, we don't really know much about him. But if you look at the top, right, I think people underestimate how stacked the heavyweight division is. Okay, so there's Tom Aspinall, okay, at number 1. John is at the top that everybody wants to get at. There's Cyril Gane at number 2. Cyril Gane at number 2. And then there's Alexander Volkov at number 3. And they had a very close fight. And then there's Sergey Pavlovich. The problem with that is that Tom Aspinall basically starched him. Tom Aspinall starched all these people. He starched Curtis Blades, and then there's Jailton Almeida, who I would compare as the Alexander Usyk of the UFC without a title, because like Alexander Usyk, he came from 205, 200 cruiserweight, and then moved up to heavyweight and fighting at like at most 220 or 230, not a very big heavyweight. Marty Miller says, we have a local heavyweight that I think is going to make it to the UFC. Huge country boy, RJ Harris. Let me look up RJ Harris, see who this guy is. RJ Harris, MMA. Okay, here we go. All right, the Hammer. So 2-0 out of Zanesville, Ohio. Ranked number 14. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, he's huge, this dude. Okay, so 6'4", which is 6'6", rather. Okay, 80-inch reach. Okay, so this is a big boy, right? Now, usually heavyweights nowadays, I mean, the minimum height, right, if they even want to have a hope of surviving, unless, of course, you're Shamil Gaziev or you're like a Fedor Emelianenko type, you'd have to be at least like 6'3" or 6'4", you know, this and that. Okay, so 26 years old. Okay, he's got 2 chokes. And then he's got some amateur bouts here as well. A lot of submissions. Okay, so he's a bit of a submission artist. This RJ, and he's young too. Once he gets some more experience, he's going to be tough to deal with. Yeah, I can see that, man. You know what? Maybe like a Tom Aspinall type of fighter, right? If he could get his boxing in order, right? If he can get some boxing, skills going, yeah, he could probably be like a Tom Aspinall type, right? Fast, explosive, but also has great submissions and great knockout power. He's green for sure, but he's tough. Marty Miller says, yeah. And that's the thing, right? With the heavyweights in the UFC, they have to do some serious talent recruitment, right? They need to really recruit their talent, straight up, because, the thing is that if they're not out there recruiting talent, then I don't know, man. It probably would not be good for the future of the UFC if they don't go out there and, if they don't recruit. Because, you know what? Let's take a look at the age of Cyril Gane, right? How old is Cyril Gane right now? Tom is relatively young, okay? So right now he is 35 years old. Okay, that's not too old for the heavyweights, but can you imagine maybe 5 years he has left? Volkov, how old is he? And by the way, you know what's interesting about Volkov, right? He's a former Bellator fighter. You want to know why that's significant? I'll tell you why that's significant, okay? He's the most successful Bellator fighter to have transitioned into the UFC. You can't say that about Michael Venom Page. You can't say that about Patrick Mix. For sure, you can't say that about Patrick Mix anymore. You can't say that about Michael Chandler. You certainly can't say that about him. But yeah, right now he is 36 years old, right? So, okay, so he's right around the same age as Cyril Gane. So basically he has 4 to 5 years left, okay? 4 to 5 years left. And then Sergey Pavlovich, he's not that far away. Sergey Pavlovich, he is what? Okay, relatively young, 33 years old, still young, right? 6'3", heavyweight, 84-inch reach. Wow, okay, so that's like right around the same height as John Jones. So yeah, man. There's a lot of heavyweights that are going to not be there anymore, and then obviously Derek Lewis is way far out of the tooth, and yeah, and then you know what? Thinking about it, the rankings of the heavyweight division haven't really changed much, right? Over the past 5 years, right? Over the past 3 to 5 years, I would say. The only people that are new in this top 15 right now, Martin Buday, he's quite new to the list in the span of 3 to 5 years. Taliesin Teixeira, very new to the list. Mick Parkin, new to the list. Shamil Gaziev, new to the list. So 12 to 15, to rank number 12 to 15, all these guys are new in the list. Now, going up, there's only 2 new guys that are up in that list from the past 2 years, okay? There's Tai Tuivasa, number 11. He's been in the list for a long time. Derek Lewis has been in the list, right? If you remember, he got a title shot against Daniel Cormier in 2018. 2018. So the event right after the Conor McGregor versus Khabib fight, which, yeah, was in October. And then they had the Madison Square Garden fight in New York right after that. So Derek Lewis, Sergey Spivak, who's always been there. Myson Tybura has always been there. Now, here's one person that's new to the list, right? Waldo Cortez Acosta, very new to the list, right? In fact, just came out of nowhere, and yeah, you know, now has burst into the scene at number 7. Jailton Almeida, he's fairly new to the list, right? You didn't see him in there in the 2020s, 2021, 2, 3. Curtis Blades has been on the list. Sergey, Alexander, Cyril, and Tom. All these guys have been on the list, right? So there hasn't been really a lot of change going on in the list of the heavyweight divisions in the past 2 to 3 years or so. So yeah, man, they got their whole work cut out for them, and yeah, the UFC definitely needs to do some recruiting. So hopefully, man, you know, your boy RJ does really good. I'm sure he will, right? I'm not going to say that it's easy to get into the UFC right now, but it's easier as a heavyweight, for sure. It's easier as a heavyweight to get in there right now, a whole lot easier than ever before. So, and then on top of that, he has an undefeated record, so that helps. But I don't know. I don't know if the UFC is willing to take somebody as green as a 2-0 or a 3-0. Maybe what they could do is have RJ fight in Dana White's Contender Series. That's always, you know, that's always a go-to move, right? You know, for guys that are, you know, that are just coming up or this and that. So that's always a good move. Okay, let's see. We got fights this weekend with, let's see here. What are the fights this weekend? This is taking place in Azerbaijan, I believe. Okay, so Dingleberry says hi. Hi, Dingleberry. How you doing, my man? Shout outs to you. Versus Rountree. Okay, so where is... Okay, this is an ABC card, by the way. And this is taking place in Baku. Okay, Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is where this place is. I'm fine, he says. How about you? Doing great, my man. Thank you for joining us here. And we are going to discuss some fights. And, well, we're also going to discuss Ricky Simon and what's his name? Smotherman. Now, is it racist that he said that? We're going to talk about that in a second. Well, actually, you know what? We can talk about it right now, and then we'll get to the fights this weekend. Okay, so let's pull up an interview with Ricky Simon, okay? Being asked about whether what he said was racist or not. So, Ricky Simon. Okay, here we go, right here.
Commentator said something that he was maybe talking to you in the cage.
Oh, we were both talking. We were both talking for sure. I talk when I fight. He liked to talk too, so we can jaw a little bit.
Yeah, what was
it's better when you're talking shit and you're winning.
What was the back and forth? Yeah.
Just about that. I think he was talking shit because I was getting booed. At one point, I had him pressed up against the wall, and I told him he's under arrest. He told me I'm racist, and I was like, I wasn't going that direct.
Right here. This is what he said right here. I'm going to show you right here.
Pressed up against the wall, and I told him he's under arrest.
So as Ricky Simon had him pressed up against the wall like this, right? He said to him, hey, you're under arrest. And then Smotherman basically said, you know what? That's pretty racist of you to say that. Look, man, I don't know how that's racist. Well, do you think so, Dingleberry? Let me know what you think, right? Because the way that Ricky Simon, and look, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Okay, the way that Ricky Simone is saying this, he's saying, you know what? That's not the direction that I was going at. Right now, look, I can understand why he would say that that's not the direction that he's going at. Do you guys know what a Dagestani handcuff is? You guys ever heard of a Dagestani handcuff? It's where Khabib, I mean, he, and other Dagestani guys have sort of perfected this. He puts his arm he puts your arm right behind you, okay? And basically, wrist control you from there, right? It's a wrist control position pretty much. It's called a Dagestani handcuff. Now, obviously, if you're calling it a handcuff, there's elements of that that have a metaphor that sort of deal with the police. And then if you are, a black man like Smotherman, okay, fighting in Atlanta, okay, a very dominated black city, and then here's this guy saying, oh, well, you're under arrest or this and that. You know what, man? I can see and understand why he would think that. But also there's this other element where other people are just looking to call anybody a racist over anything, right? And then it gets to a point where sometimes, well, what does the word racist really even mean when it almost means nothing? Dingleberry says, well, I don't think it's very racist. Okay, he may not have meant it with racist intent, but he should know why saying it that would seem racist. Correct. I think, you know what? I'm going to pin this comment right here because this is a very important comment to read right here. Dingleberry says, I don't think it's racist. He might not have meant it with racist intent, but he should know why saying it would seem racist. Yeah, I agree with that. Fire Mania says, can you say the N-word? No, don't ask me to say that. I've had a guy here write the word knee and then, GROW, which, by the way, reading it is not bad, but saying it out loud, sounds bad. So I was not about to get caught up with that. Marty Miller says, I was just going to say that everything is racist nowadays. Well, you know what? So this is where this situation gets complicated, right? Because I agree, I kind of agree with Ricky Simon. I don't think Ricky Simon meant anything by it. Now, look, if he was to say that to a white opponent, let's be honest, if he was to say that to a white opponent, it would not look like anything. Honestly, it would just look like somebody using a metaphor as to saying like, hey, you know what, I have subdued you. Now, what does it really mean to be arrested? And this is a weird little word gameplay that we're going to play here, right? What does the word arrest mean? Definition. The definition of arrest, okay? So this is what the definition of arrest is, okay? To seize someone by legal authority and take into custody, to stop or check or process. Okay, so if you really look at that from a metaphorical point of view, Ricky Simone seized him, okay, took authority on him, and as such, while he's pushing him up against the fence, he has custody of him because he's the one in control, right? So by definition, arrest just really means that you're taking someone into custody. But the problem is that and you and I know that African Americans have had serious issues with the police over the years, and this is a historical fact, right? So it adds kind of a different content to it and a different type of controversy, because otherwise, why would we even talk about it? Marty Miller says, what did he say? Sorry, I missed it. I'm out working. Oh, so Ricky Simone, if you remember, he said that, hey, you're under arrest, right, to Smotherman this weekend. And so it basically became like this this big focal point. Sorry, had a little Freudian slip there. But yeah, that's what he said. They used to sell chocolate balls as words. Oh, okay. Interesting. Marty Miller says, white guy has white pride tattoo and he's crucified. Kane has brown pride and no one says a word. Yeah, you know what? That's very true. That is very true, Marty Miller. Look, here's an interesting thing about this, right? Me personally, if I saw somebody with a white pride tattoo, which I've seen plenty of guys out here in California, right? They're called Peckerwoods. You know, Sean Strickland has ran with a gang like that before, right? So, you know, Peckerwoods, skinheads, you know, Nazi organizations, we got them all out here, right? They are all out here, right? You've seen it in the movie American History X. That's, yeah, they are part of the California gangland landscape as much as the Bloods, Crips, Norteños, Essays, and all of that, right? They are absolutely part of that whole, you know, dynamic of the gang factions in California. So if you're part of that world, let me tell you, man, you're sort of desensitized to the reality of people that have swastika tattoos or have white pride tattoos. So believe it or not, a guy like me would not be swolely offended by that. Uh, do it jiggle? I don't understand what that means. Fire Mania 2.0. Let me know what you mean by that. So I'll tell you this, Marty Miller, when I first came to Cali, right? Uh, I remember I ran across a few of these white boys that had, you know, tattoos already. And they were hanging out with some of my Mexican homies and this and that. And I'm like thinking, man, I'm like, yo, why do you hang out with these dudes or this and that? So they had to explain to me and say, hey, you know what? A lot of these guys had to spend time in prison. And as a result of spending time in prison, they had to run with the whites. So they got white pride tattoos, they got swastika tattoos, shamrock tattoos, whatever it is that sort of defined their European heritage, they put it on their body one way or another. So, what I'm trying to say, Marty Miller, is that for people that are part of that world, it's not like so offensive because you know what? I had a black homie that got locked up, right? He was in there with some Peckerwoods in prison. And he told me a conversation that he had with a leader of the, you know, of the white gangs, right? He basically said, you know what? You're no different than me. I have love for my race. You have love for your race. We're not really that different. So you see, there's this commonality amongst people that are within that warrior class, right? What do I mean by homie? A person that's a longtime friend of mine, or somebody that's like a mate, or if you're in part of if you're in England, that's what they would call it. You know, your mate, your homie, your friend, your buddy. You know, something a lot of white Americans like to say, hey, that's my buddy. You know, hey, buddy. You know, this and that. Yeah. So, you know, just a different expression of saying amigo or friend, or how we would say in Arabic, Sadiqi or Aki, right, as in brother. So, yeah, you sure you didn't mean by the, yeah, what is your obsession with this, you know, N-word stuff, man? You know what I mean? Like, you know, kind of weird, but yeah, so, you know, going back to what Marty Miller says is, you know, a white guy can't have a white pride tattoo, but Kane can have a brown pride tattoo. Well, I tell you what, in prison or in the world of gangs and mafia and you know, the criminal underworld, those guys, you know, of all races, they don't care that you have a white pride tattoo, you know, or this and that. Business is business. But in the mainstream world, it's seen as a very negative thing, and there's a reason why it's seen as a negative thing. So this isn't a place to troll Fire Mania. Yeah, no, it's definitely not. You know, but yeah, chill with that Fire Mania. You know what I mean? I mean, he hasn't said anything offensive yet, so you know, we're going to protect his freedom of speech rights at that. But you know, if you do step out of line, obviously I'm going to have to ban you because you know I can't get banned myself on YouTube. You know, Fire Mania says, are pandas black or white? That's a very good question, Fire Mania. What would you consider Stephen Curry, right? What would you consider Barack Obama? Because when you're asking if a panda is black or white, they are neither just one or the other. They are both, right? Just like Obama, just like Stephen Curry, just like any other light-skinned brother out there. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. So, yeah, look, do I think that was racist of Ricky Simone to say that? No, I don't. I mean, it could be seen that way, but he didn't mean to say it that way. He's basically just trying to say this in metaphorical sense, right? Because when he's saying you're under arrest, this is literally what it means. Seizing someone by legal authority and taking into custody. Stop or check progress or process, right? Well, that's what he was doing, right? He was trying to progress. He was trying to work a process of grappling, right? So that's the reality matter at hand. Now, with Smotherman, I want to take a look at what part of the world Smotherman is at right now. If you notice, I always ask people here what part of the world they are from, because I think that it helps me kind of understand the context of who you are. I mean, it's not totally indicative of who you are or what you have going on, or or anything like that, but it is a good indicator. Okay, so he's from Houston, Texas. Okay, so he's from the South. Do you guys know what's going on in Texas right now, right? Do you guys know about that Carmelo Anthony case? Let me see any updates on this particular case with Carmelo Anthony. Okay, because let me see here. The killing of Austin Metcalf. Okay, so this is where he's from. Okay, he's from Texas, and this takes place in Texas. So I need you to understand sort of the racial dynamics that come from this place, right? And this particular killing right here, right? The killing of Austin Metcalf. So I'm going to read this to you guys, right? So just so you guys can understand. Carmelo Anthony, not the basketball player, but that high school kid that allegedly unalived Austin Metcalf. Can pandas say the N-word? And okay, I'm going to have to ban you for that word right there. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not going to ban you, but I'm going to remove what you said right there, right? You can't use the C word either, right? Like saying N-word and then without saying the actual N-word is one thing, but then you're actually like calling people the C word, which is like racially derogatory. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to delete that. I'm not going to ban you, but I have to delete that comment because it's not in good taste, right? So, okay, so Austin Metcalf, okay, white kid, 17 years old, American student at Memorial High School, okay, and on April 2nd, 2025, he was fatally stabbed while attending a school track meet in Frisco, Texas. Okay, so he died with his injuries at the scene. 17-year-old Centennial High School student was arrested for stabbing and charged with murder. Now, this is Carmelo Anthony, the black kid. Okay, the incident has been the basis of much online attention, misinformation, and fundraising. Okay, this gets really interesting right here. Okay, so Austin Metcalf, okay, was born in 2007. He was an MVP linebacker for the football team and participated in track and field. Metcalf's father said that he was playing football was his pride and joy. His twin brother, Hunter Metcalf, who played football with him, stated that he looked up to Austin. According to his profile on Huddle, Metcalf was 6 feet tall, weighed 225, and was a class member of 2026. So he was on the verge of graduating. What's your OF? I don't know what OF means, Fire Mania. But, okay, so a little context here, right? So Austin Metcalf is seen by the black community as this white supremacist, right? Because he got into a fight with this black kid, right? Well, this is the way I sort of look at this situation, right? I look at, these are two alpha male type of dudes, right? Carmelo Anthony, the black kid, Austin Metcalf, the white kid. And they just stood on business. It just so happens that, this white kid got stabbed because, the black kid decided to take it up a notch. And as a result of that, well, he's the one, he got stabbed, right? He got stabbed, he got killed. And now people that are paying attention to this news, what's your of? I don't understand what OF means. So you have to explain to me what that means. So they're making the Austin Metcalf and the Carmelo Anthony situation into a race thing, right? Look, Austin Metcalf plays football in Texas. If you play football, I'm not saying that every white person that plays football is not racist or this and that, but there's a high unlikely chance that you will be, especially if you are in a sport that is, quite frankly, dominated by, OnlyFans. What is that? Oh, he says, oh, no, I don't have that. Sorry. Yeah, I don't have that. Okay, so, Okay, so he had a 3.9 GPA average. He was an MVP linebacker for the football team. He also participated in track and field. Metcalf's father said that playing football was his pride and joy. Okay, so he weighed this much. He's 6 feet, 220 pounds at high school. So, okay, he's a fairly big kid for what he does. The alleged perpetrator, Carmelo Anthony, was a prominent student and athlete for the track and football team at Centennial High School, also in Frisco. Okay, so what we got going on here is a school rivalry, right? This guy goes to Centennial High School, the other guy goes to Memorial High School, both in Frisco, Texas. So is that really a race thing? No, I choose not to. Thank you, Fire Mania. So I think it's a high school rivalry more than anything, more than it's a race thing. But everybody's making it into a race thing. Okay, so okay, let's. The alleged perpetrator was a prominent athlete for his school's football team, Memorials, Warriors, and excelled in multiple track events. So these are both alpha males, right? These are both alpha males. He was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and a captain of Centennial's high school football team track and held 2 part-time jobs. Okay, so he has been allowed to graduate due to his academic excellence and has multiple college offers according to social media. He is the oldest of 4 children in his family. He had no prior criminal history, and according to his profile on Huddle, what is Huddle, by the way? It's a product of okay. So it basically tracks sports. Okay, he's 5'11", weighed 160 pounds, and was a member of the Titans. So both football players, okay, both Texans, they made it into a race thing because, you know, one kid that killed the other kid was black, and then the kid that got killed was white, so they had to make it into this whole thing. But then the incident goes, okay, the incident goes as follows, right? The stabbing occurred at Memorial High School tent in David Kugendall Stadium, approximately 10 a.m. on April 2nd, 2025. The altercation started when the track and field championship event was delayed due to thunderstorms and heavy downpours. So Hunter Metcalf, Austin's twin brother, told the accused to move out from the Memorial team's tent. Austin then stepped into the confrontation and engaged in verbal combat with the accused. During the argument that ensued, he allegedly told Metcalf, "Touch me and see what happens." While reaching his hand into his back pocket, Metcalf then pushed the accused onto the bleachers they were on, and in response, the accused allegedly said, "Punch me and see what happens," to which Austin pushed him. The suspect pulls out a black knife from his backpack and stabs him once in the chest before running away. Another witness in the Frisco police arrest report stated that Austin, the male, went back and forth, and then Austin stood up and pushed the male to get him out of the tent. After being stabbed, Austin ran down the bleachers, grabbing his chest, and told everyone to get help. When the police arrived, he was not conscious or breathing. Multiple athletic trainers were performing chest compressions on him, despite the efforts of his brother responding, emergency medical technicians, and other people to revive him. Austin Metcalf was pronounced dead minutes after arriving in the hospital. Now, the accused quickly surrendered to the police, according to the responding officer. And the accused first said, "I was protecting myself," and was emotional and crying hysterically after he was arrested. The officer then communicated to others that that the suspect was in custody, to which was accused, "I'm not alleged, I did it." As he was being escorted to the police car, accused reportedly said, "He put his hands on me. I told him not to," while he was sitting back on the police car, and he asked if Metcalf is going to be okay, and reportedly asked the officer if what I did was considered self-defense. I tell you what, so this is a 160-pound black kid versus a big white kid who was 225, right? I mean, there are grounds of self-defense, and after all, this is Texas, not California. But even if it is Texas, there is that racial element of it, so who knows, right? So once again, why I'm telling you this is because Cameron Smotherman comes from a place like this. This is his home state. This is his region. This is what they go through, right? So, legal proceedings, right? The accused was charged with murder, transported to Collin County Jail. He was charged as an adult. Since under the Texas criminal justice system, defendants at age 17 and older are prosecuted as adults. So April 14th, Judge Angelica Tucker agreed to release the accused from jail, citing his clean criminal record and background in academics and athletics. He was placed under house arrest with an ankle monitor, and his bond had to be lowered from $1 million to $250,000. Now, according to the conditions of his release, he must be supervised by a parent or adult at all times. He is also required to contact judge's bailiff every Friday morning. He is prohibited from using social media and is banned from contacting the family of Austin Metcalf. So that's interesting. I wonder why he's banned from using social media, right? Is that a law that they can do that? I mean, you know, that's sort of impending on his freedom of speech a little bit, wouldn't you think? Or I don't know. But yeah, that's awfully odd, in my opinion. But on any regard, okay, let's continue on with this one. So on April 14th, yeah, okay, so he's prohibited from using social media. Okay, so Mike Howard, a lawyer for the accused, said that he would plead not guilty and claim self-defense at his future trial. According to Collin County District Attorney Greg Willis, the accused will not be eligible to be sentenced to life without a parole or the death penalty because he's a juvenile. A bond hearing was scheduled for April 28th. The suspect's court date will be set for grand jury decides if there's enough evidence to indict him on charges of murder. Okay, so this is where all of this gets really interesting, okay? The aftermath. Okay, so according to the Next Generation Action Network, a nonprofit organization working with the accused family, the accused was moved to an undisclosed location after his release from jail following an alarming increase of death threats, continued harassment, and physical intimidation targeted at him and his family. Reportedly, various strangers received concerning material in the mail, including Metcalf's obituary. The accused's father resigned from his job because of the doxing and harassment targeting his employer on social media. Okay, so Angela Tucker, the judge who was lowered the bond to $250,000, has been doxed multiple threats from unknown people. The judge who was lowered the bond has been doxed. Okay, so even the judge got multiple threats. The FBI had to report this incident. The local sheriff's office is also investigating on whether anyone shared her personal information online. So they're even going after the judge for this one right here. So Metcalf's family requested for privacy in her funeral on April 9, 2025. His online obituary celebrated his engagement in sports, yada, yada, okay. The case garnered widespread attention on social media, and right-wing news media became a right-wing cause for this particular matter at hand. So this is what I'm saying, right? You got, this kind of relates to the Ricky Simone and the Smotherman fight, but not in the extreme sense. Obviously, these guys settled it in a professional matter, in a matter of combat sports, whereas these guys went into straight real combat. Look, so everybody is going to make this about race. Now look, when you look at Metcalf and then you look at Carmelo Anthony, they did not make this about race. I don't think that this was anything about race, and there's no evidence of that, because if there was, there would be racial slurs being thrown at one direction or another, and there was none of that going on with this. So you can't toss this up as just, okay, well, you know, a concept of race or this and that. And so as a result of that, misinformation about the case has been promoted by supporters of Metcalf as well as by the supporters of the accused. Okay, the mother of the accused stated that the family has received death threats. Both families have received swatting calls, resulting in SWAT teams come into their house. Now, April 17th, the parents of the accused and the NGAN held a press conference. Metcalf's father attended, saying it would be an opportunity for the two families to come together in a productive way. After he had been there for 40 minutes, he was asked to leave by the organizers and escorted by Dallas police after being threatened with trespassing charges. Now, the NGAN founder and president Dominique Alexander said that the father's presence was uninvited and very disrespectful to the dignity of their son. A few hours after the press conference, gunshots were reported at Metcalf's house. The call was later confirmed to be swatting. Now, according to father, approximately 20 officers searched his residence. Now, what's interesting about Metcalf's dad is that he basically told a white nationalist, look, this has nothing to do with you. This has nothing to do with anything. This has more to do with my son and the incident that he had going on. And he even mentions, hey, you know what? Even the Carmelo Anthony family are going to go through a lot of, they're going to go through a lot with this as much as they are. So the fundraising, the family of the accused set up a co-fund. So you guys know this story. I'm not going to go into this. And then there's a protest about this on April 19, 2025. A group of Protect White Americans held a protest at the location where Metcalf was killed. And the protesters demanded that the accused be returned to police custody until his trial. One counter protester who pepper sprayed an attendee and the other one antagonized attendees both got arrested. So again, this is what I'm trying to say, is that this has become a racial element issue when it didn't need to be, right? So that's sort of what is going on in this particular subject matter at hand. And yeah, that's pretty much what Ricky Simone and Smotherman were going through, right? These are two guys that are just trying to fight, trying to make a career. And, well, you know what? You can't help that. You can't help that Smotherman, feels the way that he felt, right? That's the way that he feels, but it doesn't mean that he's right. So, yeah. Okay, so. All right, so, okay, so let's get back to the fights, okay? Enough about, the racial elements of, Ricky Simone and Smotherman. Well, I mean, obviously, we could still continue to talk about that because it's sort of what the entire title is about. But let's get to the fights first, shall we? So the fights this weekend, okay, in Baku, Azerbaijan, how do I pronounce this? Azerbaijan. Baku, Azerbaijan, which is in Central Asia, right? So basically somewhere in Eastern Europe. So Oban Elliott is going to be in this one. Mohammed Usman is going to be in this one. He's taking on Hamdi Abdel Wahab, okay, Egyptian Greco-Roman wrestler. Okay, and then Tagir Olobenov taking on Azat. A whole bunch of names that nobody knows, right? Ismail Nadorov, Park Jun-young, Oban Elliott taking on Koi Sok-yun. And then Mohammed Nayov taking on a whole bunch of no names. Nazim taking on somebody who's the only people that realistically anybody knows here is Jamal Hill, Khalil Rountree, Rafael Fezev, and Ignacio Bahamendez. Look, I think Jamal Hill is going to win this one. Rafael Fiziev is going to win this one as well. And Curtis Blades is going to win this against an unknown heavyweight. Those are the top three fights in this card. And then the first fight of the night is really interesting. Hamdi Abdelhamed versus Mohammed Usman, right? Which is the brother of Mohammed Kamaru Usman. That's going to be an interesting fight. Okay, so Fresh Melon Juice asks, any updates on Iran, Israel, and the U.S.? Okay, let's take a look at some updates on that particular matter. Iran, Israel. Okay, so 35 minutes ago, Trump says he's working on something much bigger. What exactly does he mean by that? Okay, so New York Times article. Okay, live updates. Israel says it killed another Iranian general as Trump returns to D.C. So fighting enters the fifth day, right? Israel said that it had killed another senior Iranian general. Iran has not commented on this claim, which came from President Trump after he left the G7 summit early and said he was looking for something better than a ceasefire. So here's the latest. Israel claimed it killed another senior. Okay, we talked about that. Since Israel began striking Iran on Friday, it has dealt a major blow on Iran's military chain of command, killing at least 11 senior generals. On Tuesday morning, the Israeli military said that it had killed Major General Ali Shadami, describing him as the most senior military commander in Iran. Okay. He had been appointed to his post just 4 days ago, replacing a general who was killed by Israel on the first day of hostilities. So, Robert mentioned, says, in Washington, lawmakers are continuing their efforts to limit President Trump's authority to use U.S. forces to engage in hostilities against Iran. Okay, so as the war between Israel and Iran raises fears of American entanglement in the broader conflict, the House of Representatives, a bipartisan resolution that would require congressional approval before U.S. troops can engage in offensive attacks against Iran is gaining support. Representatives Ro Khanna, Democrat of California, Thomas Massie, Republican, Kentucky, are planning to introduce a measure on Tuesday, highlighting that many in Congress believe the question of whether the U.S. gets more involved than it already is in the conflict that should not be a decision left solely to Trump. A similar effort was introduced to the Senate on Monday by Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat of Virginia, though it faces a long odds on Capitol Hill given Republicans' reluctant challenge to Trump's power. So people across central Israel just received a cell phone warning instructing them to find shelter ahead of an imminent missile attack. A few minutes later, sirens went off in the wilder Tel Aviv region, including around Ben Gurion Airport. Look, I'm going to say this, right? I'm going to say this. I think that this is what I think. I think what's going on here is that if the U.S. actually goes and engages this war against Iran, it would be very bad. It would be very bad. I'm going to tell you why. Because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to protest this war, right? And not just Democrats or not just, liberals, but conservatives as well, right? You're going to have conservatives and then you're going to have liberals that are going to be against this war. Because it's not like 2001 anymore, okay? In 2001, 2002, 2003, a lot of people were, how do I say this? They weren't up on things the way that they are now, right? Now we have cell phones, now we have devices, now we have ChatGPT, right? We just have so much information about what is a good idea and what is not a good idea. Well, we already know that going to war was not a good idea. Going to war for Israel on behalf of Israel, taking out Iraq, was not a good idea. So I think they just want chaos, in my opinion. Yeah, that's a possibility. Zed069 says, hi, how are you, my man? So, all right, yeah. We're getting into the juicier topics of the day right now. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to play a video for you guys real quick, and then I'm going to be back in exactly 2 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to play for you a video regarding John Jones and Tom Aspinall from 2 weeks ago. Hold on a second here. Okay, so I will be right back in just a second with a cup of coffee, okay?
I have agreed to wait for the UFC to make their announcements. So I've
is that there is a business going on behind the scenes that many of you have to understand. Look, here's the harsh reality that many of you have to take, okay? And this is going to be very harsh for a lot of you to follow. Once they sign this fight, and I have so much confidence that they are going to sign this fight, all of you who have been saying John Jones is a duck, all of you who have been saying John Jones is scared, all of you who said, let's just get on with this, we're getting tired of it, whatever you want to say, black fatigue, fatigue this, fatigue that, UFC fatigue, whatever type of fatigue you got going on. The UFC is going to display it on their countdown show, and as a result of that, many of you are going to look like the biggest fools in the world. Ever since John went to Thailand, this has been Dana White's inbox as of late. People wishing for him to be stripped. John Jones wishing for Dana White to be there. More people wishing for him to be stripped. And then Tom Aspinall making business decisions ahead of John Jones away from the UFC. Well, speaking of Thailand, do you remember when Van Damme went to Thailand to try and fight Tom Poe? What exactly happened? Obviously, he was in front of a seminar, in front of a gym, just like John Jones, and everybody sort of laughed him off, right? That's sort of what's going on here. But here's the thing. There's a lot more to this story that I don't think many of you truly understand. Now, the reason why I say that is because there's many aspects of non-disclosure acts that many companies, such as the UFC, sort of practices. That's something many of you are not taking into consideration and quite frankly ignoring, because there's just so many noises that are going on outside of the UFC right now in terms of YouTube content creators. You want the answers right now. Well, that's not how it works in a multi-billion-dollar company. They have to do things the right way, and as a result of that, they're not going to let you know right off the bat what is going on. But I tell you what, there is a fight and something is going to happen. But you know what? I'm going to give you the full details on this one, so let's get to the rest of the video. So Macy Barber apparently had to pull out of this fight due to an epilepsy or a seizure of some sort. And then adding insult to injury, here comes Erin Blanchfield knocking her down while she's already down, out of her luck and out of this fight. And then also talking about how she's so undisciplined because guess what? She pulled out of this fight, which sometimes maybe she has no control over. We don't know the whole underlying issues of what's going on here. But I tell you what, it builds for a great rivalry for the future, or it may show some telltale signs of Macy Barber and some underlying health conditions that she needed to take care of beforehand. But on any regard, the other topic that we wanted to talk about, obviously, is John Jones. We're going to talk about that in a second, okay? We're also going to talk about Caleb Plant losing to Resendez. Now, usually when we put up boxing matches like this with unknown guys, we usually think that the known guy is going to win all the time. What happened with Jamie Munguia? You've seen what happened there. A guy that I don't even know his name beat him, knocked him out right after the Canelo fight. And I'm thinking, man, you know what? This is a great place for where boxing needs to be. We need to give opportunities to unknown guys, and if they somehow rise to the occasion and deserve all the praises in the world, man, we need to give it to them. And we need to give props where props is due, not fall into this favoritism of, well, he is a superstar, so we're just going to go with him. So that's basically what happened in all of the combat sports relating to May 31st, 2025, now going into June 1st, 2025, as the season of combat sports goes on, an all year round season. Well, the next topic at hand that really needs to be talked about is John Jones. Now, many of you have said something to the effect that John Jones is a duck. John Jones is preventing this fight from happening. That's the overall narrative. Well, fast forward to Thailand, okay? He has a seminar going on with some English fighters, some Thai fighters, and some Russian fighters down there, right? What did this English fighter ask him? He asked them, hey, are you really about to fight Tom Aspinall or not? So here's something that a lot of you did not take into consideration, okay? John Jones said something to the effect that I think many of you who've never worked in a corporation that has asked you to have a gag order or an NDA, also known as a non-disclosure act, need to know, okay? This is something you guys need to know that have never worked in that type of company before. John Jones and Tom Aspinall cannot say whether or not they are going to fight because there are stacked matchups that are already happening all throughout the summer and all throughout the fall, and they need to fall somewhere down in, let's say, November time in order to sort of promote this fight, right? Okay, you got in June, 316, O'Malley versus Murat. 317, I'm sorry, no, this is, yeah, 317 is, when is 317? I don't know what 317 is, actually. I do know that 318, no, 317 obviously is International Fight Week. That is Ilya Topora versus Charles Oliveira. And then 318, you got Khamzat and Dricus, middleweight title, that's in August. 319, that's 319. 320 is UFC's Noche, which, by the way, got moved from Guadalajara, Mexico, all the way up to San Antonio, Texas. And how ironic, because that's where the Alamo is, and it's very ironic for the celebration of Mexican Independence Day. And if you understand anything about history, you know, yeah, it's a very unusual place to transition from, especially when they go from actual Guadalajara, Mexico, and all the way to San Antonio, which at one point was probably Mexico as well. But on any regard, that's 320, and then 321, you have Abu Dhabi, okay? So, what is 322 to 323? Where do these fights fall under? Where do these fights fall under? Well, you're going to have John Jones and Tom Aspinall fight somewhere in UFC New York. Their November card that they have every year. It's a big card. Conor McGregor started it. The next year it was Daniel Cormier, and then next year it was somebody else, and then the next year it was Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz. The list goes on and on, right? It's now a historical card for their yearly product that they are doing. So why can't they talk about it? Well, obviously there's a gag order in place. And for those of you that don't understand that, you only want to understand that John Jones is a duck. You only want to understand that John Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall or scared of Tom Aspinall. Nobody is scared of anybody in this level. And that's something you have to understand. But what I do understand is that there is a business going on behind the scenes that many of you have to understand. Look, here's the harsh reality that many of you have to take, okay? And this is going to be very harsh for a lot of you to follow. Once they sign this fight, and I have so much confidence that they are going to sign this fight, all of you who have been saying John Jones is a duck, all of you who have been saying John Jones is scared, all of you who said, let's just get on with this, we're getting tired of it, whatever you want to say, black fatigue, fatigue this, fatigue that, UFC fatigue, whatever type of fatigue you got going on, the UFC is going to display it on their countdown show, and as a result of that, many of you are going to look like the biggest fools in the world. So what did he say to this English gentleman? He said, the UFC is the biggest product in the world. Me and Tom are not allowed to make any announcements. So, all right. If you want to see the rest of that, go check out Tom Aspinall versus John Jones, UFC 322, Non-Disclosure Act, technical and psychological breakdown right here. Okay? Go check that out. Check out that video. So, okay, going back to what we were saying, okay? Now, we got an interesting conversation before I had left, right? What was the conversation? The conversation was, will the United States go to war with Iraq or Iran the way that they did to Iraq in the early 2000s? Well, the answer is no, right? I think there's going to be a lot more pushback to this particular notion, right? And the reason why there's going to be a lot more pushback to this is because we live in an era right now where we have a better understanding of the world, right? We have a better understanding of consequences. You see, back then, nobody really understood the consequences of what it was going to take to go into the war in Iraq, right? We didn't expect Iraqi insurgents to go as hard as they did, killing many American troops, leaving them limbless, bringing them back in that kind of shape, right? A lot of PTSD going on. We got a whole generation of men that have served in that war, living in serious PTSD, right? So there's just a lot going, and then just the debt that that the United States has accumulated over the years. It just does not seem like the greatest idea to get in there and fight, for Iran. And then make no mistake about it, man. Iran is not Iraq at all, right? They are a completely different entity than that of the Saddam Hussein regime. So as a result of that, it's just not a good idea. It's not a good idea at all. But all right, let's take a look at some updates on this, right? Israel is no longer be able to provide its civilians with a 15 to 30-minute warning ahead of incoming missiles, a practice it largely maintained since Iran's counterattack began, said Lieutenant Colonel Tali Eisman, an officer in the Israeli Home Front Command. She told N12, okay, so it's a she, okay, that an Israeli TV channel that the military faced difficulties in identifying missiles fired on Israel and recommended that people spend a night in shelters or close to a safe space. She did not elaborate why. Well, the reason why she didn't elaborate, this Israeli commander, is because they don't know when and where these shots are going to come from. So the Israeli military said in a statement that there were no charges in the Home Front Command's guidelines, adding that if there are any updates, they will communicate it through official channels. Trump is offering mixed signals on the Israel and Iran war. So this is about an hour ago. President Trump has offered mixed messages since this war had started, right? This military campaign. Now, vacillating from a hand of approach to embracing a diplomacy to at times suggesting that he was weighing further U.S. involvement. So in other words, what this article is trying to say is that Trump is being very indecisive of what he's going to do with these particular matters, right? The contradictory comments have left a trail of confusion as Israelis, Iranians, and the broader Middle East try and understand whether the biggest conflict between Israel and Iran in history would escalate further, and whether Trump, long opposed to foreign wars, would plunge the U.S. into one, right? Because remember, one of the biggest campaign that Trump had ran on is being anti-war, being anti-interventionist. Well, now he's finding out real quick who his real bosses are. And you know what? It's unfortunate to say, right? Because, look, there's a lot of these right-wing people and Republicans that believe that Trump is a non-interventionist. And maybe to a certain extent they're right. But you push Trump far enough, he may not be as much of an interventionist as you think. In fact, he may just be helping, a particular lobby or a particular group, in their endeavors. You know what I mean. So, yeah, it's very puzzling, said Shara Efron, director of the research at Israel Policy Forum, a New York-based research group. See, what you're seeing him say one thing and then do another. Well, what it is he's trying to figure out what is the best course of action. Is this the best course of action? Will this be the best course of action? I mean, yeah, he ultimately doesn't truly know. He really doesn't know. So, what else do we have here? Okay, so there's been a lot of great death and destruction, but there's still time to make this a slaughter. The next time they plan an attack even more brutal will come to an end, the president said. Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left. Okay, so following that day, Trump recounted a call with President Putin, saying that both he and Mr. Putin said that the battle between Israel and Iran should end. And on Sunday, he reinforced that he stated his position by saying Israel and Iran should make a deal. We will have peace soon between Israel and Iran. Many calls and meetings are now taking place, he said in the post on Truth Social. Okay, so I guess if Trump says it on Truth Social, he could be right. I think that is his account, or I'm sorry, his social media company that he has going on, where he's trying to rival Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, and yeah, you know. But late on Monday, Mr. Trump appeared to be adopting more of a hawkish position as he left a group of seven summit in Canada early, saying he needed to return to Washington to deal with the conflict. Speaking to reporters on Air Force One on his way back from Canada, Mr. Trump said that he was seeking a result that was better than a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Asked what would qualify, he said an end, a real end to a ceasefire, a real end, and he wanted to completely give up by Iran, but he did not make clear whether he meant to end a conflict or a resolution to Iran's nuclear issue, or both. I mean, that's the thing. He's not going to tell you anything because there is just a lot going on, and he's trying to figure out what it is that he needs to do exactly. So as for American involvement, Mr. Trump reiterated that the United States would not hesitate to use force against Iran if attacked at any U.S. targets. The United States is roughly 40,000 troops across the Middle East, but he now has more forceful. He was now more forceful on social media, saying that he was not returning to Washington to work on a ceasefire, but rather something much bigger. And that America first means great things, including the fact that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So a lot of cryptic languages there, just not a lot of clear indications of what it is that they're trying to say or what it is that they are trying to do. But yeah, that's hold on a second here. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So I think we'll call that a day right there. We'll just call that one a day right now. Yeah. For now, that's all that I really have for you guys. Well, you know what? Let me see. Let's cover UFC 317 for a second. Okay. Let's take a look at the UFC 317 card, and then we'll go from there. How about that? Okay. So Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. For those of you that don't know, the co-main event for that one is Alexander Pantoja taking on Kai Kara France. And then Brandon Royval taking on Joshua Van. How about this? Joshua Van stepping right in there once again, right? Really moving his name up in the flyweight division, right? And on top of that, I mean, he's third to the last fight. And then underneath him is Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano, a 50-50 fight right there. Roman Kopylov against Paulo Costa. How about this? Paulo Costa still doing a damn thing right there, right? This is a pretty even fight. That's a 50-50 fight. Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov, a 50-50 fight. Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano, a 50-50 fight. What else is a 50-50 fight in this card right here? Brandon Royval and Joshua Van. That's a pretty 50-50 fight right there, right? Obviously, Joshua Van moving up in competition. Yeah, very much a 50-50 fight for him. On the preliminaries, you got Jack Hermanson taking on Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop. Vivian Araujo taking on Tracy Cortez. Okay, that's fun. That's fun. In early prelims, Jonata Dennis taking on Justin Taffa in the heavyweight division. Not a very filled up UFC 317 card yet, right? Not very filled up. There's still a few fights that they have to put in here, so that's quite interesting. That I don't know why they couldn't just put Derek Lewis and Teixeira in this card, but I guess they wanted to create their own main event for that particular light. But yeah, man, on any regard, yeah, that's all that I have for you guys right now. We'll get back to more lives later on. Maybe drop a video or so but haven't really been dropping videos, just been doing lives on a consistent basis. But on any regards, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one, inshallah.